1997, Bellevue, Washington. Every social movement attracts fanatics whose extremism creates a backlash. The feminist movement has long been dominated by such fanatics. Will they cause a backlash against women, or do we have another choice? Almost every day, a desperate man or the woman who loves him emails me, and I've heard it all. Abusive women, battered men, double standards, sexist stereotyping, fired for sexual harassment, falsely accused of acquaintance rape, family court, divorce court, custody battles, child support, recriminations, false accusations, process servers, visitation rights ignored, contempt charges against custodial mothers that go unenforced, greedy lawyers, staggering legal costs, personal bankruptcy, lives destroyed, jobs lost due to depression, blacklisted, down and out. Where do you go? Who can you turn to? What can you do to help? Nothing works so well to recruit a new member to the men's rights movement than to wake up one morning and hear the feminist B-52s rumbling overhead as they dump tons of the divorce court equivalent of Agent Orange on your personal rice paddy, defoliating your life and livelihood the way the United States Air Force did in Vietnam, pragmatically and without remorse. If, after the clouds of smoke settle, he trudges out to his devastated rice paddy and, with a sigh of resignation, sets out to restore his life rather than run off to join the war, who can blame him? War seldom makes sense, the battle between the sexes least of all. So I give this desperate man the names and addresses of a few organizations, encourage him to visit our link page, read the organization news articles, pick one, and join the fray. Maybe he will, maybe not. The real question is, if he does, then once his personal situation is settled, as much as it can be, will he stay and fight, or, like most others, will he wander off, content to ignore the screams of his neighbors as the feminist fires roar through their homes? This is best for me, he might feel, and my children, he might rationalize. But is it? Best interests of the children has long been a battle cry of the divorce court dames, a red banner of war fluttering on an acrid wind above the shock troops of the new rage. Here the pinched faces of the Clan McKinnon, there the glittering eyes glaring out through thick folds of flesh over the jowls of Andrea the Hun. Alongside, looking more like Roman rabble than Irish poets, the partisans of Patricia rumble and swash their bucklers as Gloria, in her all-red armor, harangues them to hatred with her anti-male yapping. As we all know, they really don't care about the best interests of the children. Well, maybe they do, sort of, but their purpose in saying so is not for kids' sake, but to use the multiple warhead missile they can fire over the crowds of unprepared men who, as everybody will now tell you for its commonly known fact, behave badly. Anti-male stereotypes notwithstanding, the best interests of the child is an issue that should preoccupy the thoughts of every divorced father, but not in the sense most think. If a divorced dad is able, finally, to resolve the custody and support issues of his case, restore his relationships with his children, and get on with his life, he's ignoring that what may be settled for him today will almost certainly consume his children tomorrow in their own relationships. This is not in the best interests of his children. So what? He fought his battles. Let them fight theirs. If he can beat the feminist barbarians back from his borders, who cares if they turn to attack his neighbors? They may consolidate their position sufficiently to attack and destroy his children. But none of that need concern him now. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow he dies. Now there's a responsible attitude. Were I his children, I don't know how much respect I'd have left for him after suffering through a post-20th century feminist holocaust. None, maybe. This isn't merely an academic question. A lot of college students email me, and it's of real concern to them. They're keenly interested in making the world a good place in which to build communities and raise children. They want to know why their parents aren't doing anything to resolve these issues and why their parents are foisting off the responsibility for the next revolution onto them. Out of respect, if not love for them, for their hopes and dreams as well as our own, every man, no matter how reluctant, should stand up and be counted in this next revolution. Better now, while we can realistically hope for a swift end, than to wait until there's no escape. Yes, the backlash is inevitable. For more than a decade, the unemployment rate among men has been higher than among women. Most of the homeless are men, and in almost every age group, most of the dead are men, until you get to the very last, of course, and then everybody drops off. Men do most of the dirty, dangerous work. Men receive less education, less quality of life health care, less welfare, more criticism, more condemnation, less leniency in court, less support from the community, less love. More castigation in the popular press, more hate, more derision, and by far more responsibility. Men care and die for the welfare of women and children. To be male is not to be a domineering patriarch, but, for most, to be condemned to the salt mines of male responsibility. In response, the feminists who have been liberated by such responsible men yammer and hammer, carp and whine, wheedle, wail, and drive more and more men up against the wall of women's presumed oppression. If this continues, there can be but one response: backlash. Quote, when you can't get through after a long period of time out of frustration, either you take it out on yourself and become suicidal, self-destructive, or you challenge the society, and one way is to become terroristic. Close quote. Share Height, Women and Love. When this backlash comes, it will sweep through our streets like a California wildfire, devastating homes, bankrupting businesses, and destroying lives. At worst, the rage of so many disenfranchised men could be our undoing. At the very least, it will mark the end of women's liberation. In the evolution of every social movement, this moment comes, always has, always will. Or will it? Must a backlash be? That, for us, is the question. Must we stumble blindly along, letting the force of the invisible hand of millions of individual spur-of-the-moment decisions take our choices from us? Or can we control our destiny? And if so, how? Throughout history, revolutions have been staged by the majorly pissed. Perturbed to the point of fanaticism, they generalize their few real enemies into the tramping feet of a million devils and call upon good people everywhere to join their brave battle against badness. The feminists are a case in point. Robin Morgan says all heterosexual sex is a man raping a woman. Excuse me. Marilyn French writes that all men are rapists. Andrea Dworkin shrieks, fuck, dozens of times per page. Mary Koss does a study of rape on college campuses for Ms. Magazine. The next thing you know, every newspaper in the country is shouting 1 in 4 women will be raped or sexually assaulted during her life. Take back the streets, they shout. Mandatory arrests of men in all domestic disputes, they demand. Avert your eyes, steer clear, make way, let no man dare pollute a woman's life with his presence. Are you willing to see your sons or grandsons get that way? Are you able to sleep well at night knowing your daughters or granddaughters will almost certainly become tomorrow's whipping boy? Or can you see beyond the TV in front of your comfortable chair to the possibility of doing something before it's too late? If we wait until the angriest, most egregiously wronged men who have nothing left to lose organize a march riot, do whatever it takes to satisfy their sense of justice, then we are no more innocent than the otherwise decent Germans who woke up one morning to discover that oaf Hitler had come to power. It's time to open your eyes, see where this imprudent path is leading, and what? Join a men's rights group? Start a local chapter of Fathers Über Alles and picket the National Organization for Women? Well, maybe. But maybe there's a better way, the equalitarian way. Now, I know, stay with me here. Organizations like NOW demand equality of results, then push programs that make some more equal than others, like Animal Farm. Women have rights to reproductive sovereignty, men don't, that sort of thing. Equalitarians take a different view, that we are all and must be equal before the law, and beyond that, well, if you want to make the grade, you have to earn it. A handout is charity. Nothing wrong with charity, but it's voluntary. The feminist majority wants charity to women to be mandatory. Mandatory charity is slavery, and slavery is hateful to Americans. Next time some femagogue of a college professor preaches slavery, just say no. Petitions are one way to do that. Gather signatures, stage rallies, let university administrators everywhere know there's no place for slave mongers on campus. What if a major metropolitan newspaper or TV studio engages in biased or bigoted reporting, like don't they all these days? Protest! The one thing the media hates more than anything else is to have a bunch of protesters picketing them. It calls their credibility into question. Doesn't have to be hostile or hateful the way the New Rage Women's Take Back the Night and Slut Walk marches are. Carry signs, have a paper prepared you can hand out explaining what the fuss is about, and otherwise, be friendly. Hand out carnations. Flower power can be fun. Infiltration can be fun, too. Join NOW or the Feminist Majority Foundation, then demand they change their agenda. Or join an equalitarian organization. I'm a founding member of the first United States chapter of the now defunct MERGE, Movement for the Establishment of Real Gender Equality. Bet you didn't know that, but it's true. You could do worse than join MERGE, but that's not your only option. If you don't like any of the existing organizations, start your own. And once you start, what is there for you to work on? Lots of things. Demand complete information. If a women's studies professor says women make only 71 cents on the male dollar, demand a breakdown by sex and wage category as well as hours worked per week. Both male and female truck drivers at United Parcel Service, for example, make unions scale. Therefore, any pay disparity is the result of more or less hours worked, not male managerial sexism. If your local newspaper runs an article about how women are the primary victims of domestic violence, obtain a copy of the latest Bureau of Justice Department statistics that show otherwise, round up your team, and demonstrate outside the news office demanding unbiased reporting. Why become a reluctant revolutionary? Ultimately, we all have the option to look for a safe haven where we can just ride out the coming storm of male rage. There are compelling reasons, however, why we shouldn't do that. It's better if the revolutionaries are reluctant. Think about it. If somebody is majorly pissed, they're going to want a little payback. And what do you know? If they get away with a little, then why not a lot? Before you know it, the cure is worse than the disease. A reluctant revolutionary, on the other hand, wants to go home. Every day he hopes the revolution will end so he can get back to the things that really matter, like Star Trek. The minute he sees the opposition wave a white flag, he'll be ready to negotiate. Oh, from experience, he will learn to watch out for false attempts to negotiate peace, and he'll grow cautious. But, by and large, he'll be eager for an end to this ridiculous war. That's why you need to get involved now. The longer you wait, the more likely the backlash will erupt out of a desperation that will ignite the angry flames of fanaticism. Far better to be a reluctant revolutionary today than to look back to today with regret tomorrow. 2016, Olympia, Washington. I wrote that 19 years ago, and the overwhelmingly politically correct do nothing to offend feminists response from men of the baby boom generation is a big reason why, when Aaron Clary rails on boomers, I agree. Boomers cannot claim ignorance. A handful of us made as much noise as we could, and both conservatives and liberals, what we would today call the establishment, joined in unison to support the feminist hate-mongers who attacked us. In fact, as utopian and innocuously unrealistic as the MERGE organization was, it still attracted outrage and bile from the limp-wristed liberals and whipped conservatives who rallied around the feminists to defend them from anything so offensive as the idea that we should actually treat everybody with respect, including men. Now, of course, conservatives are finally joining the fight against feminists. Better late than never, I suppose, but your sons and grandsons already are getting screwed. What are you going to do to make it up to them? You could get out of their way and let them take over, except that the millennials are so majorly fouled up by the socialist indoctrination that passes for an education these days that most of them are not fit to lead. Some of them are, but not most of them. My suggestion, pull your noggin out of your nether region, abandon the establishment, discard the status quo, and come out in force to favor the values, virtues, and principles that reward rather than penalize men for supporting society. Because right now, men have all the reasons in the world to go on strike, and millions of them already are. Welcome to the world of MGTOW, men going their own way. If you agree, please share. If you don't, please share. For the Backlash at Backlash.com, my name is Rod Van Mechelen.